When I was 12 or 13, I had my tonsils and adenoids removed, a procedure that left me with a lasting speech impediment. Whenever my adoptive parents noticed I wasn't speaking normally, I'd be punished severely, busted upside my head, or slapped hard, leaving me with ongoing difficulties opening my mouth fully. I am also an amputee with poor balance. When they were angry, I'd get beaten or even kicked across the room. I was always warned to watch out for the TV, which often became an instrument in their outbursts. I was forbidden from having friends who weren't disabled, isolating me from the world. This isolation and abuse have deeply affected my ability to make friends or navigate relationships, even as I approach 30 in May. They claimed that if they had let me date, I'd allow guys to take advantage of me. I didn't even get my first phone until I was in a group home, dismissed as unnecessary and a sign of no money for Christmas. The trauma of these experiences continues to affect me daily. I struggle with both short term and long term memory, have PTSD, and face social anxiety, all of which make it even harder to trust others and build connections. Moving forward, despite everything, I am still here. The pain lingers, and the scars, both physical and emotional, will never fully fade. But I am learning to navigate life on my own terms. Every step I take toward independence, no matter how small, is a step they never wanted me to take. They tried to break me, but I refused to let them define my future. Trusting people is hard. Making friends is hard. But I want to build a life that is mine, one where I'm not controlled or isolated. Healing isn't easy, but I know I deserve more than the hurt they left me with. My story doesn't end with them. It continues with me, on my own path. Failed interventions and systemic betrayal. In an attempt to control my behavior and attitude, my adoptive family forced me into therapy. They believed that if professionals could fix me, I would finally behave the way they wanted. But every therapist I saw told them the same thing. I wasn't the problem. They were. My struggles weren't because I was broken or difficult, but because I was being abused, manipulated, and gaslit by the very people who claimed to be my family. But my adoptive folks refused to accept the truth. Instead of listening, they dismissed the therapist's concerns and continued their cycle of cruelty. Their narcissism blinded them to reality, and they convinced themselves that everyone else was wrong, that they were the victims, not me. When therapy didn't give them the results they wanted, they turned to more drastic measures. They tried to have me committed to a mental hospital. They wanted to label me as unstable so they could rid themselves of responsibility, locking me away where no one could question their treatment of me. But the hospital refused to admit me. As long as I wasn't harming myself or others, there was no reason for me to be institutionalized. For the first time, someone denied them control over my fate. But instead of realizing their mistake, they took it as another inconvenience, another failure to get rid of me on their terms. Since the hospital wouldn't take me, they found another way to dispose of me. They forced me into a group home for disabled people against my will. I spent 4 years there where the abuse didn't stop. It just took a different form. The staff controlled every part of my life, treating me as less than human. I was trapped once again, abandoned by the people who were supposed to love me. The system, which should have protected me, failed at every turn. Therapists saw the truth, but couldn't force my adoptive parents to change. The mental hospital rejected their attempts to institutionalize me, but that didn't stop them from finding another way to take away my freedom. And when I was finally placed on a waiting list for my own apartment, it took years before I could finally begin building a life of my own. Even now, as I approach 30, the effects of these betrayals linger. The isolation, the lack of social experience, and the deep seated trauma have made it incredibly hard to form relationships. I struggle with PTSD, social anxiety, and memory loss, constant reminders of the years of mistreatment. The people who adopted me were supposed to give me a better life. Instead, they tried to erase me. And the worst part, the system let them.